after the Suez Crisis, the UN sent the first emergency force in history to make sure the original borders were followed. The same November, Egypt and Syria signed a defense pact. You might say, what about Palestine? The Palestine Liberation Organization did an attack on Israeli defenses, so the Israelis attacked the village of As-Samu, but they were quickly beaten back. In May of 1967, Egypt got false Soviet intelligence that Israel was massing troops on the Syrian border, so Egypt kicked UNIF out, the United Nations Emergency Force, and did the same at Sinai. Then Jordanian and Iraqi troops, reinforced by Egypt, were placed on the Jordan-Israeli border. And on May 31st, Egypt and Jordan signed a defense pact. You might ask, so what caused the war? Basically, Israel said if Egypt closed the Strait of Tiran, Israel would declare war. So that's the exact thing Egypt did. So on June 4th, Operation Focus was started, and the next day it was the 6-day war. Let's see how strong its side was. Israel had an army of 264,000 troops with modern Western weapons from the USA. To fight Jordan, Israel put 40,000 troops and 200 tanks, 8 brigades. The central force was 5 brigades. 2 were permanently near Jerusalem, the rest were at Sinai. The Northern Command Force was 3 brigades and were north of the West Bank. Now let's see the opposition. Egypt had the biggest army of 160,000 troops, but they placed 100,000 of them at Sinai. All 7 divisions, 4 independent infantry brigades, and 4 armored brigades. Syria had a decimated army due to a flurry of coups and purges of 75,000 troops at Israel. Jordan had 11 brigades, 55,000 troops, 45,000 troops, 270 tanks, and 200 artillery pieces were at the West Bank, which added up to 9 brigades, and the last 2 were at the Jordan Valley. But unlike the other allies, they mostly had Western weapons, such as a new battalion and with new mechanized infantry, and a paratrooper brigade trained at a new American paratrooper school. Iraq had 100 tanks and an infantry division at the Jordan border, and 2 squadrons of Iraqi fighter planes. Saudi Arabia also put in 1 battalion on June 6 and another on June 8. They were based on the city of Ma'an. They were also reinforced with planes from Libya, Algeria, Morocco, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. And to make up for the losses on the first day, volunteer pilots from the Pakistan Air Force came to help. So we can see that on the Arab side, it was mostly Soviet weapons, except Jordan, but Israel had American weapons. On June 5th, Israel started the war by launching Operation Folk, where they bombed bases on Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. And at 7:50 a.m., the northernmost division in Egypt crossed the border at the cities of Nahal Oz and south of Khan Yunis. They were also after the city of Arish, but to get there they would need to go through a narrow pass, and that pass saw fierce fighting, but they were able to capture it the next day at 8 a.m. But at Al Arish they were ambushed. Meanwhile, at the city of Abu Agila, the battle started at midnight on June 5th. Heavy artillery fire from the Jewish side. By 2:30 a.m., they cleared a third of the trenches after heavy fighters, and the engineers on the Israeli side were able to clear the minefield. And on 7 a.m. the next day, they destroyed Egypt's tank battalion, which destroyed the last of the Egyptian forces in Sinai, so that let Israel just take all of Sinai. At the same time, in the West Bank, machine gun exchanges were happening in Jerusalem, and soon later, Jordan started shelling Tel Aviv. Israel said if Jordan would stay neutral, Israel would not invade. but Jordan said it was too late and started shelling Jerusalem. So in retaliation, Israel bombed Jordanian Air Force bases. Jordan tried to encircle Jerusalem. Israel then attacked the Jordan Valley and was able to take over Jerusalem. Syria stayed out of the conflict for the first 4 days, but after false reports that Egypt is attacking Tel Aviv, Syria joined. They started by shelling North Israel. This started the Battle of Golan Heights.
After some political debate, Israeli jet attacked Mount Hermon on June 9th. 2 hours after the airstrikes, the 8th Armor Brigade attacked Golan Heights. They also captured
A few towns after fierce fighting.
Israel destroyed the first line of defenses and the rest of them were mostly intact, but Syria did not want to take any risk and they retreated. After heavy casualties, Egypt was able to retreat behind the Suez Canal. But then on June 7th, Israel took Sharm el-Sheikh, and by June 8th they captured all of Sinai. By June 10th, after finishing invading Golan Heights, there was a ceasefire where Israel got all of Sinai and everything to the Jordan River. What seemed like an easy defeat against Israel was not. The end.